Morning. So today is the 22nd of August, Monday, and we've posted some assignments on the board. If you watch this YouTube link, it actually walks you through a series of, in some cases, time-consuming steps, in other cases not. It all depends on the status of your laptop or your PC. I won't lie to you, if you have never reformatted your hard drive, if you've never reloaded your operating system on your laptop or your PC, sometimes the first time you do these things take quite a while. So that's the part 2 for optimizing your personal technology. As far as the host specifications, you're simply grabbing the views of the task manager, right? So if you click on the task bar at the bottom, everybody sees my mouse moving, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And then I use my right mouse button instead of my left mouse button. A context menu appears and I select Task Manager. And then if I go to the performance screen, the performance tab at the top, this is one of 2 screenshots. So this would satisfy the CPU memory capacity. And so you could use Alt print screen, or you could crop this and then open up a new paint window and paste it in there. And you would, just as the assignment mentions, you'd say, you'd use your own first initial and last name. And then you'd say, let's see, what is this? CPU memory, right? So on this screen, I get to see how much memory you have and how much is consumed. And then what kind of cores and logical processors you have. It tells me what you're dealing with, whether it's Intel or AMD or something else.
Turn on lights.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I would say J. Smith, and then I'd say CPU memory, right? That's the first one. Now, what about the second one? What's the second one we need for this assignment? But it's pretty straightforward. The total versus available disk space. So you can select this, and it'll tell us how much whole or total capacity the physical hard disk has, and then what the logical volume for your C drive or OS partition holds. But that's not nearly as good as this right here. So if you open up File Explorer, or in the Mac, you could open up About This Mac and then select the Storage tab, right? And what you have, I minimize this, is a window in my File Explorer. And it'll usually say this PC or my PC. And it'll show total size and free space. And this is important because there is a solution in this course where you can build a virtual machine using virtual digital components. And but you have to have a certain amount of free space, and it's helpful to understand whether or not you have free space. Oftentimes when we coach students to install software and so on, they can't because they lack the free space. And in some cases, it's a matter of taking their movies and video and music and putting them on an external thumb drive or an external drive. Because downloading free music and movies is a thing, right? And no judgment. I'm just saying a lot of times people are like really maxed out on their disk space because of their hobbies, right? So that's just something you would take a screenshot of this. You could change the view to make it a little bigger, right? But if you do that, you won't see the information. So you want to select details from the view menu option. And that's important. Another thing I would advocate as we work together And this is just another housekeeping chore. As you work in File Explorer, it's very helpful to select the file name extension option from the View tab. And this means that file extensions for files and directories will be shown on your screen. And a lot of times that's really important for stuff to work correctly. It's also good to select the hidden items option, and unless you're really in favor of using checkboxes in your view of the C drive, like if I click on my C drive, I have checkboxes all over there. That tends to be kind of, that can help or hurt if it's what you're used to. I don't have a problem with using checkboxes, but I always turn that off because I like using control clicks or shift clicks to select certain folders. So I'll select one and then I'll hold down the control key and select a second, or a shift key and select arrange, and so on. That's just what I do. And so there you have it. Now there is another option here, an option pull down, and this is important to mention. When you're working with hardware components, especially when we're dealing with the file system and the disk partitions, this is a critical part of physical hardware, right? You want to be able to see stuff, and the default settings for File Explorer really suck. I don't know how to put it any other way. And so you would hit the pull down and select change folder and search options. You want to select the View tab, and you want the View tab to appear as shown here. The first checkbox is unselected. All the other checkboxes are selected. The radial button that says show hidden folders, files, and drives is selected, and hide, hide, hide is unchecked, unchecked, unchecked. If you select this while you have clicked on the C drive, that change applies to everything on the C drive. If you select temp and go into, and then do this, then those options only appear, those changes only appear within the temp directory or temp folder. So that's one minor point or finer point that I would mention. You want to select your computer, and then you can select the primary drive and then go to view and then details, right? And then slide over here to change folder and search option, view, and then here's how you want it to work, okay? Now, this is going to afford us a kind of a common view. So as you're watching videos and recorded steps of a solution, step by step for a solution, you're going to see things on the screen. And one of the first things that happens is that I get a lot of, I call it flash traffic. You know, it's close to the deadline. I get notices from folks that say, hey, I'm not seeing the same thing on my screen. And a lot of times they're not seeing the same thing on the screen because these adjustments weren't made up front at the beginning of the semester, or they were made up front and then, you know, a later Saturday, people are in their screen. They're like, why does this look different? And then they watch a YouTube video and it says, click the reset folders option or restore defaults. And then everything goes back to the way they liked it, except that, you know, now there are differences with other things they're doing on their system. Okay. Any questions about what I've mentioned here today about options? Now this becomes critical when we're working with Notepad text files, especially when we change the extension from .txt to .htl, as you're creating your own digital components and you're simulating a virtual digital component. You're going to need to store those in temporary folders or whatever. Which brings me to our other assignments. One of the things that we're going to talk about, and I'll get back to the rest of this in just a moment. We're going to ask you to store plenty of additional downloads and files, but not in the downloads folder. And the reason for that is you may have more than one user configured on your laptop. So if we go to family and other users and you have more than one user or account configured, which by the way is a best practice, you may or may not know, this is just a safety tip, that the first account you set up when you turn on your shiny new laptop or PC for the first time has administrative privileges, and you should never, ever, never, ever, ever browse the internet or access your email or get online with apps using that first account. Now, nobody tells you this. Absolutely no one tells you this. And nobody tells you, oh, you should set up someone else on the PC. See, what you should do, the first account as you're turning on your brand new machine is create an account that's non-intuitive, meaning it doesn't say administrator or God or root, something like that, right? You don't want it to be an attractive nuisance, but it's primarily used for maintenance and support. You're making changes to your system, you're adding or removing software, you're adding a printer, or you're connecting peripherals, right? You got a new wireless keyboard and a mouse you want to set up. Those are the things you use that original account for. What you should do is go into family and other users, or on the Mac, go into users or accounts, something like that. And you should add another account and leave that account to be a standard user. And that's the one you get on the line online with. That's the one you get out on the internet with. And that's the one that you use when you're browsing the web, you're checking your email, you're using online apps. And why is that? If it has standard permissions and privileges, safety tip, you'll be prompted to put in an administrative password half the time you're clicking links and doing things online. You're like, why would I need supervisor or root or elevated privilege? Why would I need administrative privileges to just view this email? Why would I need elevated privileges just to check out this website, right? That's your first client. That's your first clue that something is trying to jump on your system. Most people don't realize that when you're using that first primary account and you're out on the web, if you interact with anything that requires additional permissions to jump on you, to get into your Kool-Aid, to ruin your life. Do I have everyone's attention now? How to stay safe with software and hardware, right? Okay, what we're talking about is, and you're probably wondering, what happened to Professor Kentop and who are you? Well, we need to have this talk early and upfront because this is part of what I take a look at when I get to your assignment and your submission. I want you to realize when I get stuff like this, if I see your memory is mostly loaded out, if I don't see that you're running 57 apps and you have 23 tabs open in your browser, I'm going to think, oh my gosh, you're infected, right? And a lot of your stuff isn't going to work right. And we're going to have all sorts of headaches. And you're going to get frustrated with the assignments and the solutions. And so this is kind of a, hey, let's check this dipstick up front first kind of thing, which is why this activity is so critical and so important. When you have that first account and you get online, if something or someone wants to jump on your system and you click a link, they can load software in the background with administrative privileges because it's your administrative account that you're using out on the open internet, on the public internet, where very bad people and bad things are lurking, okay? I'm just saying. Now, why do I bring this up? I'm going to ask you, after you've changed the views of your File Explorer, I'm going to ask you to create a temp folder. If you don't have a temp folder on your C drive, it would be a good idea to have a temp folder. This is a staging area where you can store resources for our class, and more than one user can access what's in this temp folder. Put another way, I am logged in now on my maintenance account. If I look at who's logged in, I'm using my maintenance account. I'm using the privileged account that I set up when I first loaded the operating system on this laptop. And instead of calling it, and this isn't the best name, so this is a great example of something that could be an attractive nuisance. If hackers are on your system and they're in the middle of your Kool-Aid and they're making your life difficult, and you just have a simple assignment to do for Professor Kentop and you can't, and it keeps barking at you that you don't have permissions or it's not working, we're going to ask you to check out some of this stuff. And I chose the word owner because I wanted to be able to talk or have a dialogue about not the best names to use for your first or primary account. It would be better to use something like Spare or George. Now, there's no George in my house, but a hacker doesn't know that. Okay? If I use the word owner or administrator or root or God, most hackers will know that it's a privileged account. But in any case, if I'm doing things to set up software with the original account, and in this case it's owner, it's going to set up stuff in a specific place. It's going to set up some files in program files and here, but it also might set up the software that I need to install in a hidden user profile directory called app data. Okay, there's a lot of online stuff that you can load, and we're going to get into the weeds with this because when we start building logical digital components, there is some really cool free software, and when you install it, it's an app that you get from the store and it loads into here. And more to the point, this is inside the user's directory. So if you're logging in with a safer login, which I would advocate for each and every single one of you, you may or may not have known this, but if you're joining us in CSE 241 computer architecture, your instructor is basically like a cyber professional that's got all the highest certifications anyone in the world can earn or achieve. And I'm on the executive advisory board for an organization that certifies people worldwide. And that same organization advises the White House, as in the President of the United States, and Congress, as in the US Congress, on matters of cybersecurity. Okay, so the time I'm taking to share with you here, this is where I want you. I know it's a Monday morning. I know everybody's kind of wiping some sleepiness out of their eyes, but if I'm recommending that you do a thing with your laptop or your PC and then you have problems later on, I'm going to ask you about the stuff we're talking about right here. I'm going to ask you, oh, it doesn't look the same. Did you change the view? I'm going to say, oh, you can't get into the folder where you installed this. Do you have more than one user? If you say, no, I don't have more than one user, I'm going to say, let's look at this screen and see how much hard drive space you have now. And we're going to do this. And if I see that you have very little free space, I'm going to say, okay, let's go into here and see what's going on. And obviously, one of the things that you can tell about a system is when it was actually turned on the first time. So if you've only set up one account and it was years ago and you got it out of the box from Office Max or from Amazon, and you set up your only one account, you'll see a lot of the same dates on many of these default folders, right? And that's a good indication, like in Windows, in the Windows folder. If I go into Windows System 32, if I go inside here, I'll see a lot of the same dates when the OS was installed, or the Windows System 32 folder itself will have a different date. Does everybody here see the system folder is December 7th, 2019?
Yes.
Yes.
The speech folder is 2019 and the SK. All right, so this is a great example of the schemas folder, the security folder. That's a great example of how you can kind of suss out when something was turned on and set up for the first time. So on the 7th of December, Pearl Harbor Day of 2019, almost 3 years ago, I loaded this OS and I locked it down. I locked it down by not connecting it to the internet until I created other users. So when I connected to the network or the internet, right? Now, where are we going with this? Let's talk about this. A lot of times, if you have the latest updates, a lot of security or instabilities are resolved. So this next screenshot that I need you to do for this assignment, you receive in the Mac world, when you run updates, you go to about this Mac, and then there's an updates option, and it'll say you're up to date, and that's it. In our Windows world, you're going to go into here, you're going to go into the home screen, up into update and security, and I'm recording this, so we're going to post this afterwards. And you're going to click on check for updates. Now you'll always see you're up to date, and that's deceptive. That's a problem. The other thing too is that if you don't have the advanced options for updates configured properly, you won't get all the updates. For example, here it says advanced options. You want to make sure all of these are turned on. And then for delivery optimization, you want to make sure that this is turned on and that you can get updates from other systems on your local network. And that will help the update process run a lot faster. A lot of times people don't update their PCs because they don't have time. And I'm just saying. We're all human beings, we're all rushed, we all have other priorities, and it's okay if something barks down here in the system tray that says, hey, you have an update, don't you want to update? It's very common for most users to go, no, I don't want to do that. And when you get into this class and you want to design and build your own digital components because you want to be the master of your own hardware universe, you got to have a secure and stable system for the stuff to work. Okay? And so what happens is that you run Windows Update, and it might say, hey, there's a feature update. Don't you want to load the feature update? You always want to answer yes. You always want it to load. You always want it to reboot, at least now that you're in this class. When you go into Update and Security, you go to Home, what I want you to capture is the System option instead, and I want you to go to the About screen, okay? The About screen, and it's this right here. I want you to maximize the screen. I want this to be visible right here where it says visible specifications. Now, this will give me important information about your hardware. So this is critical. This will also show how much RAM you have and what kind of processor you have. And that should track with the other capture that we just did. But the other thing that's critically important is whether or not your Windows version reads 2.1H2. Now, it could be Windows 10 Home Edition instead of Pro Edition. It could be Windows 10 Education Edition. I don't really care. But at a minimum, it needs to be 2.1H2, and specifically the OS build has to match or be higher than OS build 19044.1889. Okay. Now, if this number is the same, 19044, but it's less than 1889, it means you don't have the latest updates on there. And what we have to do is figure out, okay, what's going on with this, right? Why isn't it? The other thing I would advocate too is that a lot of people do not use the built-in antivirus when they buy their PC or their laptop. Another thing that happens is that they start working on our solutions and our assignments, and they can't load, they can't do, even if they have administrative privileges. And it's because built in to their laptop or PC. All right, so if you click on the start button and you type control panel, and I'd like everybody to follow along here. Right, control panel. Open up control panel. If you start typing control, you should see panel pop up. You want to open this. Your first view of the control panel, if you've never been in there before, may look something like this, right? You want to change it under the category option to something that looks like this. And under programs and features, you want to pull a listing. And here's the important thing about the listing. You're going to want to be able to go down this list, and if you don't recognize each and everything here as something that something you wanted, something you installed, you needed for your classes, right? If it's not, I mean, if you're looking at it and you're like, what is this? When did that? Usually when you load other software, it'll load an operating system component so that the software knows how to make the calls. And these are called redistributables, Visual C++ redistributables, and they have different date ranges. Usually when you have very old ones, you want to start thinking about, okay, what is it that loaded that old? That's 12 years old. In digital terms, it's ancient, right? You probably want something that's 2015 and newer. If you know what it is that's installing these and you wanted it, because I was doing something for my cybersecurity stuff, right? Then you're good. In our solution I'm about to post, your textbook author talks about how to install the hardware simulation environment, the free software that they provide with the textbook. In order to run that, you have to have the Java Runtime Edition installed at a minimum. You might have the SDK installed. And if it's an older version, you want to update that, you should be good to go. In your MacBook or Mac OS, you're going to want to install the Java that you can install for a Mac, and then your stuff will work right. If you don't have this component in there first, it won't happen. You'll see what I mean when you get to that assignment. In any case, why do we have this listed? If you notice that there is something like McAfee antivirus, Norton antivirus, AVG, right? And you heard AVG, it's the bomb, it's free. Select it and uninstall it. Unless you paid the subscription to use the professional version and it's a current subscription and you can show me that it's there, you should not have other antivirus installed on your laptop or PC. First of all, it tends to bang heads with the other security measures in Windows. It's not integrated to the operating system kernel. And it's a freebie they gave you with the hopes that within 90 days you would like give them a credit card number to continue using the paid version. Most of us don't whip out a credit card 90 days after we start using our laptops to pay someone when we have the option to run the equivalent, actually superior program free. What am I saying? For 25 years, I've worked in industry as a Microsoft certified systems engineer. Now, when Windows Defender first came out, it was a dog. It wasn't very good. Now, there are different kinds of dogs and some of them are good dogs. I don't mean that it was good. I mean, it was like not ready for prime time and it was free, but it really wasn't all that good. And antivirus software companies made a comfortable living protecting people from viruses. The way things happen now, if you don't update the OS kernel and the antivirus simultaneously, exploits can get around those defenses. Windows Defender is built into the Windows operating system and it's included free. And it has all sorts of really cool features it never did have when it first came out. And it's actually much more effective than a lot of the free stuff that's out on the internet. What am I saying? You can catch things here with the built-in Defender that you will not catch with AVG, even though AVG is great, or Avast, okay? So the main thing is you don't want more than one antivirus in the mix. And unless you made the commitment to pay for an active current subscription of a McAfee or a Symantec or a Kaspersky, or take your pick. There's all sorts of antivirus out there. If it's free antivirus, sometimes free antivirus is actually a backdoor for hackers to get onto your system. And that's a big problem. So I wanted to share this with you because as we start to work on our assignments and we start getting into the concepts and I start noodling with the software that you're going to need to do the solution for the first module, it's not going to run, it's not going to work right. You're going to get frustrated and you're going to feel very out of sorts because all of a sudden you're like, is this going to be a good class? Am I going to be able to do things I need to do? And the short answer is, if we need to rebuild your system from scratch, wipe your hard disk to the bare metal, save all your data, and start you off on a machine that looks, feels, and smells and reacts like it's a brand new machine, you'd be shocked. You can have a 3 or 4 year old laptop and you rebuild it from scratch and it's like a brand new machine. Why am I telling you all this? A lot of people get frustrated and then they have problems with their personal technology, and instead of taking the plunge and working with someone who does this as a living for a long, long time, and it's free, and I have to make sure your stuff works right, or it's my fault you don't do well in the course. I mean, just think about this for a second. For the assignments we're about to do, if I recommend that you should consider wiping your stuff, I want you to take it seriously, because I'm going to see you in person on St. Thomas and here on St. Croix. And if you turn in this assignment and I see certain things on the screen, I'm going to send you an email that says, hey, FYI, there are some adjustments or some changes I think you want to consider on your system. Now, you're free to ignore those, but if I take the time to share some quality tech support, like senior level engineer kind of support you would only get if you were a company and paid Microsoft for it, right? If I give you that kind of suggestion, I need you to think about it and then talk to me. If you have concerns or you're worried or you say, this isn't my laptop, it's a family laptop, I might help provide some clarity. We can share the screen with your folks, with your family. I can explain that if they use it for online banking or for other serious pursuits, Now, the disk defrag and cleanup. When you do all of these 4 things and you finish doing the optimizing, you can take a few extra steps and it will double the performance of your hardware system. I'm going to say that again. If you own a Windows system and you go through the trouble of watching this video and doing everything you're supposed to and doing all the updates, and then you do a disk cleanup and a disk defragmentation, just like you're supposed to do, I'm going to see I'm going to know whether or not you did it completely. But you're at a place where you can make a single change to your system and it will double the performance of your laptop, if it's healthy, if there isn't anything wrong with an exploit or something else under the hood. Okay, that disk cleanup option is found in Control Panel, or you can simply, and let's do this, I need to update my participants list because I know I've been talking a lot and we've been going through quite a bit here, but I'm going to stop talking and then we're going to take questions in just a moment. When you do disk cleanup and disk defrag, you can click the start menu and start to type the word disk. And you should see defragment and optimize drives, or you should see disk cleanup. The other way to do this is to go into the control panel. And it's within a different feature. So under administrative tools, you'll find it where it says disk cleanup and then defrag and optimize. Now, one of the cutesy little things that's annoying is that before you run defrag, you can do the disk cleanup, but if you're on a laptop and you don't change your power your power management settings, what will happen, here, let me do this. This is called the skinny button in the lower left, lower, can everybody see my mouse going crazy in the lower right corner?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's another little, like a little sliver of a button right here. I call it the skinny button. When you click that, it minimizes all of your open windows all at once. It's a really cool thing. If I tell you to click the skinny button, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So, when you're on the main screen, if you go into power options, see, if you have a laptop and it's running on battery power, or you think you're plugged in and you're not, when it starts to go into screen save mode and it puts the screen to sleep, it's not long before it puts the drive to sleep. So when you run the disk optimization things, they won't finish. They won't run right. So what you want to do is you want to go to the you want to go to the personalize option by right clicking the open desktop. And then, no, I take that back. You're going to go to home and you're going to go to system and power and sleep. And you want to make sure that when your system is plugged in, it shows never. And when it goes screen and sleep show never. You're going to hit the pull down and scroll all the way down to the bottom and select never. And then when you run your disk optimization, your disk cleanup, and your disk defrag, you're going to make sure that your laptop is plugged in. You don't have this issue with a PC. Okay. Any questions about this? Now there's also another additional power setting that also affects performance. If you click at the advanced stuff and you go into change plan settings, you'll see a different view of the same thing, but click on the change advanced power settings. This cute little thing, the hard disk default settings are terrible. If your laptop is plugged in, it shouldn't turn off the hard disk after 20 minutes, but that's what the default is. It's like 20 or 30 minutes. Open this up. If it doesn't show that immediately, open up hard disk and then look at the plugged in version and change it to 5 nines, 99999 minutes. The other thing you can do too to improve performance dramatically is to go to processor power management, and under the minimum processor state, when it's plugged in, you want it to be like 25% or 33%. As long as your laptop is clean, there's not a lot of crud and dust in there, right? And what that's going to do is it's going to give your CPU additional power reserves even when it's doing modest things. These make a huge difference. Why am I telling you all this? If you run your disk cleanup and then you run your defrag, you're going to come back 2 hours later and it's still going to be defragmenting if you've never done it before. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, this is never going to finish. Well, yeah, if you don't adjust the power and sleep, if you don't adjust the performance parameters for your hardware, it's going to grind on and on and on and on. And it's going to be obvious that your system is not properly optimized. All of these things make a difference. You have the privilege of installing $500 worth of software. So 5 years ago, computer architecture students learning about digital components had to purchase $500 to $2,500 worth of hardware simulation software. Your textbook authors figured out how to do this open source so that you could have it free. And that's pretty cool. And it's going to run really well if your own hardware is in good shape. I think it's kind of a crime to be taking a course, and I don't know about you, but to take a course in computer architecture, to take a course in hardware, and the hardware of your own personal device is configured so badly, it's like really slow and really painful to use your hardware, which is why we've made a conscious decision to go over this stuff earlier in the course instead of later in the course. Okay. So I wanted to spend some quality time, and I want you to spend some quality time to actually walk through the same steps for the optimizing your personal technology video, and on matter of faith, do everything the way it's shown, exactly as it's shown. And if at the end of the series of tasks. You don't have a dramatically different laptop or PC in terms of performance, then we might want to look at, okay, how many different software applications do you have loaded, right? How many different software applications do you have loaded in programs and features? Do you have anything in there you don't need? It's old, it's outdated. You don't even know what it is, right? So you can uninstall these things first and then run your updates. If you do that first, you might find that your system updates run a lot faster because you're not trying to update 27 old unused apps. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have an issue with updating this computer currently right now where it's telling me to manually uninstall this VirtualBox LD player thing, and it's not showing up in my control panel to uninstall. So that's an issue for me.
Well, if you sit tight, as soon as we close out the session, you can share your screen and I'll walk you through it. It takes 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. You have tech support on tap, right? So if you run into a snag or whatever, remember, if you do run into problems, you should capture the screen, email it to me and say, hey, I was doing this and this is what it's telling me, and I want to do this. And we'll go ahead and help you untangle the knot. Okay, so I know that we covered an awful lot about the rest of this, but here, let me show you. This is pretty cool. When you go into the disk cleanup, this is one thing that really just, and I think I mentioned this in the video, right? How many tabs do I show up here?
One.
And did you know Microsoft, in order to properly clean up and optimize your hard disk after a couple of years of use, you really need to clean out some system files first. And if you defrag before you do this, the cleanup never really worked. And the defrag doesn't really work either. Now, there's a word for this, built-in obsolescence. Your system gets slower and painful to use after 3 or 4 years. So what do most consumers do? They go out and buy a new one, right? What I'm telling you is that there are hidden things that you can do to get a lot more out. It's going to look and act like a brand new system if you do the clean up your system files. And you want to select all of these except with the possible exception of delivery optimization files, right? So you're going to go ahead and select all of these, but you want to click this clean up system files first. And watch what happens when you do. It's going to swirl a little bit. It might seem like nothing happened. It might seem like it's broken, but then eventually another screen will pop up. I'm going to hit my skinny button. Another screen will pop up, or it'll show up on the taskbar and you won't see it. Now, how many options, how many tabs do I have now?
2.
What you need to do, watch this. I can gain 4 gigabytes. But if I didn't know about this one and I didn't check under system restore and shadow copies cleanup, it'll sound scary. It'll say, oh, are you sure you want to delete all these? You say delete. Click it again, cleanup, delete, just to be sure you're clicking it, right? Then go back to disk cleanup and make sure you check all the boxes. All of the boxes with the exception of the delivery optimization, right? Then hit OK. And I have seen cases where there's only a few megabytes that are saved, and then you click the secret tab, and you select the system files, and then all of a sudden it's 20, 30 gigs. And you're like, wow, I can get 30 gigs of hard drive space back. I don't have to buy a new hard drive or a laptop, right? That'll happen. That'll happen to one of you. And usually every year somebody sends me an email and they're like, look at this, I captured this on the screen. I saved 40 gigabytes on my laptop by doing this. Now this takes a long time if you've never done it before, which is why you don't want it to go to sleep in the middle of the process. You want to plug in your laptop, especially if it has an iffy battery or a bad battery. And then once it's finished with the disk cleanup, it's not going to show you that it's finished. It's just going to disappear. That's another thing I want to tell you. You're not sure it actually happened. It just disappears when it's done. That's when you go into the defrag option in Control Panel under Administrative Tools, and you choose this one. Okay. And after the cleanup is done, now I have a solid state drive. It's going to happen a lot faster with a solid state drive. If you have a traditional hard disk in your laptop, it's going to take a very long time. Okay. It could take, this is something you could do before you go to bed and let it run. And in the morning, it should be gone. And seriously, you might do it a half an hour before you go to bed. This should be done. And then the defrag, if you've never done it before. The other thing I want to tell you is that a lot of times things don't work their best unless you right click them and run them as administrator. This is huge. A lot of people just double click and launch, but if you right click it and run it as an administrator, for some stupid reason, the utility works much better because it's running with administrative privileges. Okay. Now you'll notice here, it says 27 days since the last retrim, right? So when you post this last piece in Blackboard, I'm going to know whether or not you did it, because what I'm going to see on your current status is, okay, 0 days since last retrim, right? And you should defrag every drive you have. Okay, so we've actually run into the end of our session, and we need to bring this to a quick close. Does anyone have any additional questions about this assignment and all the extra things with it? I want you to have that additional, that additional information in case you run into challenges.
So this Zoom call will be is recorded, right?
Yes, it is, and I'm going to push it out there as soon as we stop the class.
Where could we find the video after you like upload it?
That's a great question. So I have a couple from last week that I'll put out there as well. You're going to find them in the resources folder under class recordings under fall 2022 sessions, and it'll be at the top of the list. It'll be the most current, and the older ones will be further down the screen. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great question. Any other questions before we clear? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording.